Welcome to Doctors of the Baobab. On this podcast, we go behind the white coat to get to know the doctors that we admire and respect. So join us as we explore the stories behind the stethoscopes, uncovering the humanity behind the medical expertise. And on today's episode, we have a very, very special guest. Today, I'm so proud to introduce my father, who is also a medical doctor and somebody that I have grown to admire as a doctor, but also as a person. His name is Dr. Ndumiso Makhunga, and he joins me from Johannesburg, where he has been a medical practitioner for many years. Dad, I'm going to call you Dr. Makhunga, but maybe Dad at some point. Welcome to Doctors of the Baobab.
Thank you. I'm pleased to be here.
Great. Thank you. So Dad, I want to, as I said to you, I just want to have a conversation with you. I think I know a lot about you, but I know that there are possibly certain parts of your life that I don't know, that I'm hoping today I will be able to understand a little bit more about who you are, but especially around your medical journey. I want to start off by saying that, in my years as a doctor, there have been so many patients and so many people that I've met who have been your patients, or their mothers were your patients, or their grandmothers were your patients. So it's always been a great source of pride for me when they talk about the wonderful doctor that you've been. And I've shared some of those stories with you before. But as we do on this podcast, we always start at the beginning of your journey, just to get to know you and where you were born and what inspired you to be a doctor. I know, of course, where you were born, but perhaps for the audience, you can start off and tell us a little bit about your early childhood and your life.
Okay. I was born in what was then called Northern Natal. It's now part of KZF. It's at the corner of Natal, at the border of Mozambique in the north, Swaziland in the east, and the Indian Ocean on the, let me say, Swaziland in the west, depending where we are facing. But I normally say the Indian Ocean on the east. That's where I was born and actually brought up. When I was born, my father, who was originally working for what we now call SAPS, it was now in 1948 when I was born. He had decided to leave the police and become a minister of religion in the Methodist Church, because my forefather had been a pioneer in that field. Donated land, we had some land, we were land owners of some sort. I was actually born on the way between an area called Escort and Ngwavuma. My mother was heavy with child. On our way from Escort to Ngwavuma, the labor became too much. She had to give birth. So, as they say, they had to stop and ask the nearest kraal or the nearest house there. In the rural areas now I'm talking about. So I was born there. The place was called Kingindlo, if you have heard about that place. My father had to leave the ministry because of other things. He had to leave it altogether and start some other life fresh. He was not educated. He had to go. At that time, they used to go to Johannesburg. From Cape Town, my mother and all the children went back to Ngwavuma. That's Northern Natal, where we were born. My father went alone to Johannesburg. I must say we hardly ever saw him after that. Was always tired, always sick. And I grew up very weak. I was a weakling, but I was particularly good at school.
Can you maybe share, your experience of religion in the family and how that has influenced you as a person and as a doctor?
I was not very religious. I remember at home, because maybe my grandmother, it was granny, was even my mother, gone up to Johannesburg to work in the domestic service. But the religion was that we used to go to church every Sunday. It was also a Sunday school. And we used to pray every morning and every evening before we slept. There was practically only one hut. So we all used to sleep there. One bed where my grandmother, who brought us up, actually slept. We were sleeping on. It was also used as a kitchen, by the way. And so she would wake up and make a fire. And then when we wake up, it's nice and warm. And we want to just sit there on the fire and enjoy the fire. This thing of praying, because we're sleeping there, she used to wake us up there while we're sleeping to say, our Father who art in heaven. In Zulu, of course. Because we're young, we didn't have to realize that these were bad. Food was scarce. Grandmother had to go from house to house. Had to go begging all over the place. And needless to say, we were looked down upon by everybody. Not only that, we were not well built, tall, thin.
Because I know I've always understood that you were born into what would today be considered abject poverty. Abject poverty, as you described, the scarcity of food and even just a home, no cattle, anything. How did it affect the trajectory of your life to be born in those conditions? And I say this because looking at my life, right, and what you've been able to provide for your kids, really, because you were able to provide for us. So I just want to understand how did it affect the trajectory of your life?
Hope. The hope based on understanding that with education, I can end up being this or that, and life will be better. But I had no other hope. But let us put it like this. My promise as an achiever school is only hope I had. That like this, going somewhere. I happened to leave home to go and help another father. I went to stay with him. He was in a casheries there. There was plenty food, plenty everything. It was very much up. So there was no starvation there.
Why did you go stay with him, Dad? Why did you go and stay with him?
My mother went to ask him, can he take me? I'm always weak. She always tried that. So my main thing was I was weak. And I was weak. I grew up weak. He was at Kasher, had gone to school. He was there on that basis. There was plenty of food, milk, everything.
How long did you stay with this family?
I stayed for about 3 years until he left. So I went back home now to 2005 and 6. And they just opened the secondary school next door to me. So I went there. Otherwise, I was having problems going to boarding school. Even then, we had problems with school fees. It was a perpetual problem. Food didn't matter. I could go hungry. But even then, I was doing so very well. So very well. Except, coming number one at school was always obvious. I remember at the end of just now called junior certificate, that was now national. I actually got a distinction in all subjects. And then my father did something that was very uncharacteristic of him. Because my father used to be just absent when you need. But he was very, if you remember him very well, he was very optimistic. He said, no. Then he surprised me by having paid that school fees for the first quarter. Otherwise, they would have told me to go back home. I felt and such an embarrassment. Now, from there onwards, I used to come to my father here. He was in the state, a place called Benoni. the main reason that I was mentioned was, now, how do I continue with my father having no money for high school? I took my results to a place that these guys there, they used to say, hey, their colleagues, Morris Isaacson, something like that. So I went there to cry and say, I need money. I'm doing matric, bed at home. Here are my results. But the results sort of decided, you're the person who needs. They gave me, it was the end of my problems for financially, education-wise.
So you got right up to university, you got a bursary.
Right up to university. When I passed matric, I got a first class. I was the only one. The maths being instrumental in that. You know, maths and physical science, you can get almost 100%. You know that. So that's why I used to really score. That's what made me actually number one student there.
So at what point did you decide that you want to study medicine?
People decided for me. When I was doing what we call gymnastic, still at home, they were saying, so good. He's so good. Yeah, he's doing so well. What? They just said he must be a doctor. They skipped all the thing. And they say, no, not a clerk, not a postman, not a teacher. Must go for doctor. This one will be a doctor. That's what made me decide. I didn't even know much about it. But I had seen doctors. There's only one hospital till there, Mosford. No clinics in that area. If you are sick, you would call there. I used to call there a lot because I was weekly.
Yeah. So given that people advised you or influenced your decision to go to medical school, would you now, with what you know about what being a doctor is and really towards the end of your career, because you are semi-retired for all intents and purposes, would you do it again? Would you do it again? Would you, if you had a different choice, if you had all the choice, if you could go back in time, would you be a doctor again?
I would.
What is it about medicine that when you look back and I asked you, would you do it again? You say, yes, you would. What is it about it that makes you say that?
It was, there were not many fields that were as attractive as medicine. All the options available at the time were inferior to medicine. For an achiever at school, it was the only place where they could go. The government, because of Apartheid, you couldn't go to engineering, couldn't go to accountancy. There are a lot of things that we couldn't do. That one was actually special dispensation. There was no choice.
Yeah.
But it was the highest available qualification. There was no other equivalent in terms of achievements that could go to. Could be a nurse, of course. But engineering was not open now like for everybody. No accountant, no actuary saying nothing. That was the highest that you could go to. And very prestigious. But it was a very prestigious profession.
Sorry, I'm going to come to your time in Soweto as a doctor, as a young doctor, because I know most of your career you spent in Soweto, but I want to go to medical school. You already talked about going to the University of Natal once you completed your matric, which is also my alma mater.
Right.
Tell me a bit about your time there. Tell me a bit about your time at the University of Natal as a young medical student, and what are your key memories about your medical school experience?
At medical school, I had no money problems then, but then all the money I needed. That's why I took the minimum number of years to pass. I even got a medal in anesthetics. I don't know where it is, somewhere here. A certificate of merit in that. But I don't know. I could pass any subject I wanted to, even if I didn't like them.
So the people that you studied with, I know one of them was Steve Biko in the 70s. How did the events of the period and the political climate, how did you experience that as a medical student?
Well, Steve Biko was one of the most relaxed chaps. We're together in secondary. So I was with him in third year, which is where he couldn't now cope, because by that time he was not at school. But a very, very intelligent person, needed to say, intelligent. He was not a party guy, no. Guys who were vociferous was him, but in a very persuasive manner. He was not a demagogue. He was a chap who would reason anybody out. She had a very low opinion of Afrikaners, and there was how they killed him, in fact. Because whatever they said, he used to say something. They hit him. That's how he died.
I just want to speak now about your experience as a doctor beyond, once you left medical school. How would you sum up your medical career?
I didn't cope with apartheid in teaching hospitals. I went to Natal, a lot of apartheid. Yeah. So I was just not made to work, no, as a houseman, or not taught. I think it didn't matter if they were taught. I mean, in a houseman, we was just made to do bloods, to train abscesses, help at the theater, but not being taught to just apathy. That's all. That's why I left early. And I didn't leave thinking I'm going to go back. One of the reasons was I wanted to upgrade, do something at home. I've been poor for too long. And there is a daughter in the family, things must change. And you work till, I'm tired, you have to wake up, so my health didn't benefit. Except that I'm diabetic now, I didn't have any other long-lasting things. Except that got tired quick, bad child.
So looking back now with what you know, because I also, like you, I chose the same profession. What would you advise me as a doctor, as your daughter, about what is remaining of my career? How should I approach it as a doctor? Maybe for somebody else out there as well, but maybe speaking to me as your daughter.
Yeah.
How do you advise me to proceed with my career as a doctor?
Right. It might be late now, but when you started, could have made a name for yourself in pediatrics. In fact, as a doctor, let me just put it like that, good doctor, damn good doctor, far better than I ever could do it to. When you have made me proud, some patients of mine somehow have consulted you, and patients have been proud of me. They say they met my daughter and say, just like you, just as good as you. And I'm sure they told you that.
Yes, they did.
I'm sure you did hear that I'm a good doctor wherever I am. But, and so on.
Thank you. Then I'll have one more question for you before we wrap up. How do you define success?
Success is if we are embarked on something, we are good at it, it satisfies you. I'm doing this thing nicely. I'm getting what I want to get out of it. And some people can see this chapter. That is, to me, is success. Success is doing well in that profession, which is expected, using the standards of the profession. I'm talking about profession now, and being happy, etc.
Yeah, I love that. Then I just wanted to say thank you so much for your time. I've learned a lot. Every time I talk to you, I keep learning so much. We didn't even get into the common love of books that we talked about the last time, and how you really instilled that in me as well. the love of books and the love of.
Can you go very far with books? I don't know why. I used to read and read, and I think it made me what I'm telling you in Ashiba at school. If I had not been, I used to go to the library in secondary school. I used to go there something like twice a week, get a book, go read, finish the book, go take another one, so on and so on.
I really appreciate it, Dad. I think, like I said, I've learned a lot about you and some of the experiences that I didn't know of, and some of it that I didn't know about, and some other aspects that are really helpful to me also as a doctor. And I'm sure for people that will be listening or watching, they'll have a different understanding of who I am as well, because I am definitely who I am today because of you, because of your influence, and how I've also looked up to you as a doctor, besides the fact that we share a name, right? That you gave me your name. I've followed also in your footsteps.
And then alma mater went to the same university.
We definitely did, from the name to the alma mater to the profession. Yeah. So thank you, Dr. Ndumiso Makhunga, for joining us today, and to the audience. I hope you found today's discussion both enlightening and insightful. Stay tuned. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so that you never miss another episode filled with more valuable insight and strategies for personal growth. And if you also know someone who could benefit from this discussion, please be sure to spread the word and encourage them to tune in. So until next time, keep growing and keep shining bright.